Reading 68 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll. Great Animal House, March 1st, 1947. Work on undeveloped functions. One can use life or be used by it. When a man is used by life, he is food, used by a plane of life below that of earth. Everything is food for something else. Everything feeds on something else. When a man uses life consciously, he becomes food for a plane above the level of the earth. The reason is that if a man lives more and more consciously, he develops, whereas if he is used by life, he does not develop. The illustration employed in the work is that if an acorn lies and rots on the ground, it is eaten by pigs. But if it grows into a tree, it has another destiny. Oak can be used, eaten, to make a house, but not acorns. To develop, a man, a woman, must cease to be one-sided, cease to live in one small part of vast centers. Everyone who is in any sense near the level of good householder, that is, who has some reasonable, responsible, trained adaptation to external life, has a small developed part that is used for everything. It is like using a saw for everything, such as driving in nails or writing. To develop is to become less and less one-sided. One must explore one's own country and travel abroad in it. Yes, go to Paris in oneself, let us say. Unfortunately, people get fixed and stiff and do not get behind themselves, so that they may see where and how they have got stuck to one thing, one idea, one picture of themselves, one point of view, one outlook, one set of phrases, and one judgment on everything. For the first half of life or so, the function most used by the acquired personality that relates them to the world is sufficient. They remain apparently well. A time comes when the other functions belonging to the other centers need expression. That is, the machine urgently needs balancing. The unused functions begin to project themselves onto others. One's own limitations are seen as being only in others. So they have to be brought into consciousness and thus prevented from unconsciously going out into others. Undeveloped thinking, for instance, needs to be observed and made more and more conscious to oneself. I'm speaking of a person in whom thinking is the least used center, say a 1, 2, 3 man. He will then see that it is not the other person who is so intolerably stupid, but himself. Unless he does this, the same situation will occur repeatedly. For what lies in us beyond our slight range of consciousness acts very powerfully and quite against our small sphere of will. So the work emphasizes the importance of increasing our consciousness of ourselves. Notice when you are behaving in a way that surprises you. You may be sure that an undeveloped center is discharging energy through you. That is, discharging it in a silly, infantile way. Infantile here means undeveloped. People ask, is essence bad? It is not developed. A thing not developed can be bad, impulsive. When developed, it passes into its own intelligence and use. everything in us, not developed, that has never been given a chance to develop, can act in an undifferential way, in a purely violent, impulsive way, and so seem bad in itself. It is not bad in itself. It is simply in prison. As said, a man, a woman may get on reasonably to a certain age by means of the comparatively developed function in personality. Then the need for the recognition of the other sides becomes urgent, not in human animal types, but in people who have more in them. These other sides require a new education. This work is called a second education. One of its main ideas is to open up other centers, to become number 4 man, balanced man. But rigidity easily prevents this. So one has to begin to think about this point. Even after, say, about 30, one has to begin to see other sides of oneself and consider them. An ordinary man is number 1 in moving center, or number 2 in emotional center, or number 3 in intellectual center. In each case, he will, or she will, come to the end of that function in middle life and lose the way, lose meaning. Then all sorts of troubles arise. The solution lies in themselves. The work is about this developing of undeveloped parts. The dark side of us is not only what one refuses to admit about oneself, but what one refuses to use. Each center is a mind, giving a quite different view. All the views are necessary, so a man must work on not only what he is now in this small one-sided being, and improve that, but let in new ways of understanding and new interests. So here we have and may have many things for people to do that in life they would never dream of doing. There is intellectual center, emotional center, sex center, moving center, and instinctive center. All should cooperate successively in the full man or woman. Then there are no contradictions. This is a brief note, but if there are enough questions, I will return to it. I will add that the work will make it possible for you to use new growth in yourself, but life will not. Effort, to speak of it again, that is right, is to learn something new, understanding that thereby you will open a new source of energy, a new center. Personality puts a man in prison eventually. He dies soon psychologically. The work begins to get a man out of prison, but first he must be good at something. That is why for some it is necessary only to work on considering negative emotions and non-identifying, and not to try to take up what does not lie in the direction of a person's first early contending with life. The work helps very much in life. Some intelligence is necessary. Afterwards, it helps in another way. Work is different at different ages.